button that shows up on your video screen to alert you that this is being recorded. That way you have a reference point that you can go back to and review or share with others at your organization to reflect on information. Today, I'd like to welcome you to the 2025-2026 Ready by 5 Millage RFP or Request for Proposal pre-conference. My name is Jennifer Headley Nordman. I'm the president of First Steps Kent. First Steps Kent serves as the funding administrator for the Ready by 5 Early Childhood Millage for Kent County. And I introduced myself, and here you can see some of the team members at First Steps Kent. This is really your Ready by 5 team who supports the day-to-day operations and works with you related to the RFP process of the Ready by 5 Early Childhood Millage and supports you throughout for those organizations that are awarded Ready by 5 funding. I'm going to let the different team members say hello, unmute themselves, and let you know what position and what role they play within First Steps Kent and with the Ready by 5 Early Childhood Millage. First, I'm going to introduce Kati. And Kati, if you can unmute and say hello.
Hi, everybody. This is Kati Cortez. I am Vice President of Finance for First Steps Kent.
And Kiana.
Hi, everyone. I am Kiana Zadare. I am the program manager for Ready by 5. Jasper's not with us today, but he is our data specialist. I'll pass it over to Elise.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Elise, and I am one of the funding administrators for the Ready by 5 Millage.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Megan Strang. I'm the Communications Director at First Steps Kent.
And good morning, I'm Carter Goldstein. I am the other funding administrator on the Ready by 5 team.
And this is your team again that's here today to help walk you through the different elements of the RFP process, as well as to answer any questions you might have at the end of our presentation today. They're also the team that's here to support you on a day-to-day basis. About the Ready by 5 Millage, we're proud to have served First Steps Kent as the funding administrator since 2018, when the Ready by 5 Millage, the Early Childhood Sustained Funding Millage, passed for the first time in 2018. We were the first millage in the state of Michigan. And recently, in August of 2024, we renewed. We're grateful to the residents of Kent County for continuing to believe in dedicated and sustained funding to support early childhood here in Kent County. The Early Childhood Millage is a property tax collection. The millage is currently at 0.25 mil property tax, and between 2024 and 2030, which is the duration of the most recent millage passage, we are looking at approximately $8 million a year annually, and with a total of approximately $48 million of investment within that time frame. As we get ready to talk about the RFP process, I'd like to introduce a video to you next. The video really highlights some local experts within early childhood that are going to get you started along your process of the RFP for this round.
Hi, I'm Piper, a super duper official Ready by 5 expert. That means I know all about getting money to help little kids like us.
And I'm Margo, and today we're gonna teach you how to fill out 2 really big, really important papers.
This is one. It's called the Request of Proposal, or I call it the Can We Have Some Money More Cool Project paper.
And this one, it's the continuation of funding, or the we're doing great. Can we keep going? Papers? See? Easy peasy.
Here's what you gotta do.
Step 1, tell us who you are.
Step 2, tell us what you need.
Step 3, tell us how you'll use the money.
Step 4, send it on time.
And if you need help, just ask the real Ready by 5 team. They're super smart, almost as smart as me.
Okay, that's it. Go fill out your form and maybe bring me a snack. Being the boss is hard work.
All right, thank you for sitting through that with us. We had some really great kiddos who decided to help their parents step up and make that video. The purpose of today's pre-conference is all-encompassing for our RFP and continuation of funding form, as well as our letter of intent. As always, please insert your questions into the chat. We're going to go over our letter of intent first, and then our continuation of funding form and our RFP. We'll go over some requirements of agencies who receive Ready by 5 millage funding, the RFP for 2025. We'll go over some information about EC impact on the online application process, the RFP timeline, and the process to submit questions during the application period, and answer any questions at the end of this presentation. If you could insert your name and organization into the chat as a sign-in, and answer or ask any questions in the chat as well so that we can answer those at the end of the presentation. That would be really helpful. What we'll do is we'll compile those into a Q&A document, and those will be uploaded onto the funding website, the 2025 funding landing page. Again, this session is going to be recorded, and all documents that you're going to be using for requesting funds for proposal or continuation of funding are going to be on that funding page. Let's go over the letter of intent. For organizations that are interested in providing services with Ready by 5, the letter of intent is the first thing that you need to complete before getting a continuation of funding or an RFP form. And it just serves as that initial step in demonstrating your interest and qualifications to either get an RFP or a continuation of funding form. So we ask that you, in the letter of intent, define your program goals and outline how your proposed program will support early childhood development, health, and school readiness for children under 5 in Kent County, in addition to ensuring alignment with Ready by 5's mission to address gaps in services and improve access to resources for families. We want to facilitate and ensure collaboration and encourage partnership among service providers to create a coordinated outreach for navigation and outreach and parent education. And we want to be able to support the funding decisions by providing detailed plans for how funding will be used to achieve those measurable outcomes for your program, such as developmental screenings, lead hazard reduction, and parent education, and promoting accountability, which ensures that programs are designed to track progress, meet performance metrics, and deliver equitable services to families in need. The continuation of funding form is new this year and will be used to request ongoing financial support for programs that are currently receiving funding or an existing program or project that is funded. There should be minimal changes to the program operations and goals for continuation of funding. The things that we want to know are updates on your program goals, your future goals and plans, confirmation that data metrics outlined in the contract were met successfully. And as we review this continuation of funding for Ready by 5 providers, it's important to emphasize that minimal changes to existing programs will be expected. And again, we acknowledge that there's going to be financial adjustments, proposals with significant deviations or exorbitant increases from that original scope of work can't be accepted. So providers that know ahead of time that they will be having an increase in cost should probably complete an RFP rather than go through the process of a continuation of funding form. And again, we understand that the cost of service does increase, but for organizations who are completing a continuation of funding form, you should expect to maintain the same program structure and integrity without an excessive increase in cost. The request for proposal, again, all of these documents are available on the FSK website, the 2025 landing page. You'll scroll to funding opportunities. It includes the funding details, requirements of all funded agencies, and description and specifications of services, how to submit the proposal, and information on how proposals are going to be reviewed and evaluated. I'll pass it over to Kathy.
Thank you, Kiana. So this contract period will begin on October 1st, 2025 and ends on September 30th, 2026. And for this round of funding, we have an estimate of $8.1 million to allocate, but this is still contingent on the annual Kent County tax capture. All services will be paid on a reimbursement payment structure that may vary by service and program category. And you can see section 1 of the RFP for details. We have some financial requirements that agencies must meet to be considered for funding. The proposing agency's financial audit shows the organization to be in good financial standing, demonstrates adequate funding to cover program costs, and plans to pursue additional sources of funding in addition to the Ready by 5 millage funds. Also, proposing agency clearly explained how current funding will not be supplanted by Ready by 5 millage funds. For agencies previously funded, their program has demonstrated a history of success, spending has been on track, and program outcomes defining the contract are met. And of course, the submitted proposal is complete. We have other things to consider. The millage funds will not supplant existing private foundation or other philanthropic funds, as well as state, local, or federal funds that are already used by the proposing agency and which are supporting services. The proposing agency agrees to seek other sources of funding in addition to the Ready by 5 millage funding, like grants, state, local, and federal funds, donations, cost sharing if applicable to program category, and you can see service provider manual for full details on this. Next, we have the budget request specifications. As agencies prepare a budget request, please consider the following. Costs included must be specific to supporting the proposed program, and this means that budgets may include costs that can be identified specifically with a program and therefore are charged to that program. Requests for funding may include necessary indirect and administrative costs, so funds should not be utilized to fill general gaps within the organizational budget that are unrelated to programming costs. Cost estimates should be based on the actual time for individuals that is necessary to implement the program, and agencies should be able to provide a calculation for each line item included in the budget. So next, Carter will go over the service provider manual.
Hi, everyone. We're going to talk a little bit today about several important documents, and one of those is our service provider manual. Our currently funded agencies will have a lot of familiarity with this, but if you are applying for funding for the first year, this is definitely going to be the first document you refer to if you have any questions. So our service provider manual includes programming and financial requirements, reporting requirements, organizational requirements, and then descriptions of service and program categories. So talking specifically about those program monitoring and reporting requirements, this chart here is included in the service provider manual, and also you can see it here, and includes just important deadlines as well as meetings that are required for attendance. So those include our Quality Improvement Consortium meeting and our provider networking breakfast. In addition to those gatherings, agencies are required to participate in an annual programmatic and fiscal assessment. So during the programmatic assessment, we will ask you to demonstrate compliance with specifications in the service provider agreement, and we will go ahead and review that service provider manual with you. And then we also conduct one fiscal assessment of your performance to ensure that financial compliance with generally accepted accounting principles are being maintained and that all financial policies outlined in the manual are being adhered to. Unless otherwise stated in the RFP, we want to make sure that we are having you report actual costs for a reimbursement purpose. You're also required to submit individual data and submit quarterly reports. All right, so we track performance based on 3 metrics. So individuals served, encounters, and then actual program costs, as we kind of just talked about. So number of individuals served is going to include any children that your programming serves from 0 to 5. And in some cases, we also include expecting parents in that figure. Number of encounters would encompass the number of contacts or sessions to be provided to your participants. And encounters are determined during the contracting process, not during initial proposal. And then finally, actual program costs. This is going to include the program costs that are directly applicable to your programming and costs that are necessary to implement that programming. So as I said on the past slide, service partners track this information and submit it to us monthly. During contracting, our team and your administrative team will determine data submission protocols specific to your program. On your proposal, you will be asked to estimate the number of unique individuals that your program will serve in order to meet our eligibility criteria. And of course, remember that this can only include children through age 5 or expecting parents. And just a quick note, if you are awarded during the contracting process, you're going to estimate those number of encounters that your program will provide to your individuals served. And then we have our equity and inclusion statement here. We do want to stress that First Steps Kent and Ready by 5 remain committed to our DEI initiatives. So as we're looking at your proposals, we want to stress that we have a comprehensive interest in improving equity among all demographic groups, especially communities of color and families in households with incomes at or below 200% of the federal poverty level, again, focused in Kent County. So in this approach, please make sure that you are answering our DEI related questions on our proposal and let us know if you have any questions. And I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to Elise to go through the RFP with you all.
Good morning, everyone. So quickly, we're going to go over the request for proposal overview. So the RFP has 8 categories, and this round will be developed in this round. Agencies may apply for more than one opportunity. However, only one program type may be selected for each proposal submitted. So we're going to first go over outreach and navigation services, coordinated outreach, screening, and navigation. So programs applying under this RFP will have a broad reach across King County and may be assessed by any family with a young child who resides in King County. Outreach aims to increase the usage of early childhood resources. Programs work to identify the needs of families through formal screening and conversations. The goal of this RFP is to increase cross-agency collaboration between providers. The program must define 4 components in their model: 1, coordination; 2, outreach; 3, screening; and 4, navigation. If a model does not meet the 4 requirements, they should not apply under this specific RFP service. And please, when you're going through the RFP, pay really close attention to section 2. The next RFP we'll look at is the outreach and navigation to early care. The early care education link programming will develop enhanced infrastructure that will provide up-to-date information about the current child care openings available in Kent County program. Staff will provide outreach support and technical assistance to stakeholders accessing the online system, including families who are looking for care, providers with available openings, and common community partners providing navigation services to families. Programming will align with the Ready by 5 outreach and navigation network, and 1 provider will be selected. RFP 3 is the Healthy Development of Services. In this RFP, it provides programming to expectant parents and children through age 5, demonstrates success with supporting positive health behaviors, and drives better health and development outcomes for children ages birth through 5 years, as well as expecting parents. There are some program types that an agency can apply to. The first one is the developmental social emotional screenings and referral programming. Services that maximize a child's physical and emotional health and ensures children have regular developmental screenings to identify developmental delays, disabilities, and emotional challenges. These services ensure children and their caregivers will have access to clinical interventions that specifically support healthy parent-infant attachment, as well as positive and social and emotional development of children served. And it addresses parental well-being through facilitated groups to support the acquisition of new coping skills and resources, strengthening the parents' overall well-being. We also have healthy development and safe home environment programming. Families have access to support that addresses environmental home health in Kent County. Services could include, but are not limited to, environmental home health screening to reduce home-based environmental health hazards regarding lead, asthma, accidental injury, etc. Child lead screening, and case management for addressing lead and environmental hazards, including referrals to lead remediation resources. And then there's niche family supports. This program type will fund agencies who have experience reaching, supporting, and connecting families who would benefit from specialized services and support. This RFP encourages agencies who have an established position of trust and experience reaching and supporting families who would otherwise not be reached by programming to apply. Relevant areas for this specific RFP may include families who are refugees or new Americans, families from communities within Kent County having the highest rate of poverty, or families enduring housing insecurity, a history of trauma, or experiencing a complex set of needs to achieve sufficient self-sufficiency and well-being. These programs will work to promote positive parenting practices and ensure families are supported and empowered with knowledge of how to access the available resources and services and support the healthy development and early learning for their young children. Our next RFP is RFP 4, which is Parent Education and Support Services. Again, this year, child safety is not being funded. And here at Ready by 5, we will continue to seek direction from the county on this area moving forward. Parent education support programming ensures parents have the knowledge and skills to support their children's health, development, and learning. Service provider in-home and/or community-based support and education. Agencies may apply under home visiting programming. Our next RFP is the Early Learning Services. Here, early learning programming supports early learning and development and responds to the diverse families and child residing in Kent County. All programming will incorporate elements from the Department of Lifelong Education, Advancement, and Early Learning Standards of Quality. Programming will offer any number of nationally recognized or evidence-based or evidence-informed services to children at age 5. Agencies may apply under one of the following two program types: the Play and Learn Community Programming and Early Literacy Learning. And again, you can learn more information about these in the section 2 of the RFP. And then we have Parent Education Support Language Services. All currently funded Ready by 5 programs will be eligible to request interpretation and translation services, and the costs will be covered by the source of the Millage funding. First Steps Kent is taking a focused approach with services, seeking proposals who can provide consistent translation and interpretation for most utilized languages. This request for proposal seeks agencies who are experienced with providing translation and interpretation services in one or more of the following formats: face-to-face from English to another language or vice versa, over the telephone or video interpretation, document translation, English to another language, and 1 hour in services for requesting agency staff to learn about cultural considerations as they serve families through interpretation and translation services. Our next RFP is the Healthy Development FEMUR, which is Fetal Infant Mortality Review led. Here we will fund one lead organization to implement and provide ongoing management of the FEMUR network for Kent County. Through a rigorous review process, FEMUR network seeks to identify factors contributing to infant deaths and develop action-oriented recommendations to eliminate fetal and infant deaths in Kent County. Knowledge gained will inform Kent County Early Childhood Network on what key programs and initiatives are necessary to support healthy development of all babies and infants. And then we have our Healthy Development Training Lead, Ready by 5 Training and Education Lead. This RFP focuses on our approach of a program type. It's consistent training for all new direct service professionals funded by Ready by 5. The trainings will provide a reflective space for newly hired staff with the focus of health equity and related social needs, motivational interviewing, empowering and goal setting with families, effective documentation, how to work with interpreters, strategies to ensure families are successfully navigated, approaches to support well-being for the professional. First Steps Kent anticipates that up to one proposal will be selected for this area. Please, when you're going through your RFP, make sure you're paying attention to that section 2. So this is just an overview of those contents again. So you have section 1, which is the overview of the Ready by 5 funding. So you have your funding details, overview of all the RFPs, requirements for all funding agencies, and your equity and inclusion. Section 2 is where it's the RFP specifications for each service, details of the program type requirements, contract specifications, and evaluation criteria. Section 3 is the RFP process, which is how you're going to submit, questions and answers, and the timeline for the RFP and the resident proposal review board. And then additional material to reference is today's slides, the EC Impact Agency Training Manual, and the question and answer document that you can find on the website. We also have the continuation of funding contents. This is a new document, an overview of Ready by 5 Millage funding, the funding details, requirements for all funding agencies, directions for submission of proposals, the RFP timeline again, and then the resident proposal review board, guidelines for completing the continuation of funding questions, and the continuation of funding information. And again, you can find all of this and our website, and is linked in the chat.
All right, we're going to take a second here to go through the application process. Many of you will be familiar with the platform that we utilize, EC Impact. So this is going to be utilized by both our returning agencies and our new agencies. On our website, we do have the EC Impact training manual, which Elise just shared in the chat. And utilizing this manual and the platform itself, you will need to register for all of the programs that you plan to apply for. Upon registration, this will be reviewed, and this could take up to 3 business days for that review. Once review is complete, you will receive an email and you will be able to proceed at that point. If you have any questions during that process, please feel free to reach out to us or, of course, refer to the manual itself. Please also note that all proposals will be submitted at the same time. So if you are one agency responding to multiple RFPs, you will submit those all at once. So be sure that everything is complete before submitting, because you will submit them all together. In order to register for EC Impact, you're going to go ahead and go to this orange button over here and click register. You are then going to click Create New Program to apply for this process. You're going to fill out all of the requested information on that program registration form and then select the RFP that you intend to apply for that specific program on the drop-down menu. You will click through Next, Complete Registration, and Continue, and then it should show that your program is pending. We will go in, as I said, and approve that, and you will be notified to continue further. We are going to request some information about your agency or organization. So you're going to be asked specifically about your staff and leadership diversity. This is going to be one form per agency for all new programs. And then you can see the screenshot here, just a tip to make sure that you make sure that these two totals match up. For our agencies who are completing a continuation of funding, you're going to have an additional section to complete with some equity and diversity information for us. All right, after you complete that information, you're going to fill out the narrative section for your proposal. So this was kind of the info that we had our video go over. So we'll ask you how much you're requesting, share some elements of your program with us. We're interested in hearing how parent voice will be incorporated into your programming, and then any additional information requested. There are some different questions depending on which RFP you're completing. So if you're applying for more than one RFP, you may notice some different questions, and that is intentional. And just really quickly, we wanted to highlight a specific tip for all of our agencies completing the RFP or COF. So as you're developing your proposal, please make sure that you're letting us know how you're going to meet the requirements included in Section 2. So we really want to hear about your description of programming, attributes, and results of your services. And then we want to learn more about your criteria breakdown in Section 4. So this is how our review board is going to evaluate each proposal. And if you have any questions about that, please feel free to reach out to us. Megan is up next to share a little bit more with you all.
Okay, hi everybody. So step 3 of your proposal is going to be determine who you're going to serve. So you're going to want to make sure the numbers is a realistic number and it needs to be a unique count. So note that you can't count both parents and children from the same family in one count. Program counts will include either a child or an expected parent, and not both. And then your contract is ultimately based off of this number that you put into your proposal. Make sure it's realistic because your success is going to be evaluated based on this count. And for those completing a continuation of funding form, this part will be completed during your contracting process if awarded funding. You're also going to want to make sure you include your community focus. So while working on your number served, think about the geography, Where in the county will your outreach efforts be focused, the child age, the race, ethnicity of the child and the family, and the household income. And then you're going to enter the percentage of the individuals you're going to serve based on the community focus. And the totals for those sections should equal 100%. The proposed narrative section, there's an area for you to go into more detail about how you'll serve the specific population. And for those completing continuation funding, please write a robust narrative in that section for the community section labeled Service Reach and Accessibility. And step 4 is you're going to determine measurable program goals, and this again goes into your contract. So we say we want to come up with SMART goals, specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, time-bound, and inclusive. So we want you to provide a minimum of one of these goals, but more if you want to. And these you'll report out in your quarterly reports. And they're kind of like a Mad Lib style. And I'll show you a couple examples on the next page. So a couple of examples would be this program will increase the number of families reporting positive parenting practices through families completing 12 home visits annually and will be tracked by families completing the Piccolo tool. So you can see it's very specific and time bound. And then another one would be this program will increase the number of parents reporting that they are reading out loud at least 20 minutes per day to their child by having pediatricians speak to the parents about the importance of reading during pediatric visits. And they will be tracked by the number of caregivers reporting a change in behavior during annual caregiver surveys. So you can see they're very specific, but it's going to be a good way for us to measure your progress.
Throughout your RFP and continuation of funding form, you're going to need to describe your partnerships. If you have a formal partnership, meaning that there's a written agreement in place with another organization, you'll have to define if it's a new or existing relationship and then give a description of the relationship, or if there will be data or funds exchanged within that partnership. So for situations where funds are exchanged, the partner is going to need to be listed in the budget under individualized subcontractors. And if there's a collection of individual level data by partner, there must be a Ready by 5 consent in place, and that data will need to be submitted to the Kent County Health Department. For those that are completing a continuation of funding form, there will be a section where you can indicate successful partnerships and those that will be continuing or new partnerships. You'll also attach that into your budget form under individualized subcontractors.
So we'll go through some budget details here. So in the revenue section, you should enter our sources of revenue and support for the program, which includes the Ready by 5 request amount, any donations, cost sharing if applicable, in-kind support, and all additional sources of financial support. And related to cost sharing, here you can see what services and program types are required to participate in cost sharing and which ones are not. The ones required under healthy development are developmental, social, emotional screenings and referral, healthy and safe homes, environmental programming, and niche family support, under parent education and support, the home visiting programming, and under early learning services, the early literacy and learning programming. And the programs that are not required for cost sharing are the outreach and navigation services, play and learn community programming, translation and interpretation support, the fetal infant mortality review network led, and Ready by 5 training and education lead. And again, you can see the Ready by 5 service provider manual for additional information here. Regarding budget detail descriptions, in this section, agencies will be asked to provide information about their donation, cost sharing, current funding, and how the proposal budget rate for administrative expenses are calculated. And for each position, you will need to include the following information: the position title, FTE of each position, and percentage of FTE funded by Ready by 5. If this is a current or new position, and a brief description that includes the minimum education required for that position. Step 7 is the full budget for Ready by 5 funds only. And this is how we divided the budget under these 4 sections. Section 1 is the direct program expenses, which are expenses to support positions that are essential to service delivery that directly support families and young children. And also any position that gives supervision to direct service position would be included in this section. One thing to consider is if the proposed program does not provide face-to-face services to families, it is considered an indirect services, and wages and benefits will be included under Section 2. So Section 2 is for supporting program expenses. This section is reserved for costs identified specifically with the proposed program that are not the resources providing face-to-face or direct support to families. Then we have Section 3, which is for administrative expenses. This section is for back office costs only, and they are based on the actual time for individuals that is necessary to implement the program. And agencies will submit the administrative expenses as a single expense that represents a percentage of the agency overall overhead proportional to the program. And finally, we have the Section 4, which is for the subcontractor expenses. And we consider a subcontractor any partner, agency, or contractor included in the indirect, direct expense section who will be receiving Ready by 5 funds through the contract. That includes any agency providing work on behalf of the program that does not fall under an administrative cost. And back to you, Kiana.
I'm going to go over 2 of the attachments that are going to be within EC Impact here that will need to be completed in order for your proposals or RFPs and continuation of funding forms need to be complete. It is attachment B and C, and it is the proposing agency agreement and the proposal certification statement. And at the agency level, they have to be signed by the executive director, president, or CEO, and a board chairperson of your organization. If you are having trouble with this, please reach out to us and let us know. But they will be uploaded in the attachment section within EC Impact. Again, if you're having trouble, let us know. We're going to have those required documents again in EC Impact, but they should be available on the funding site as well. So if you have trouble downloading them on EC Impact and completing them on EC Impact, they should be available to download on the funding page. Additional attachments will be the most recent audited financials, 3 letters of recommendation, and an organizational chart. The agency annual report is optional, and a full budget proposal is optional. For those agencies that are completing a continuation of funding form, no additional letters of recommendation are needed, but there will still be the requirement to attach audited financials and an organizational chart. And you're going to want to check for accuracy and send it to a friend, send it to a coworker, make sure that it looks okay. And then after that, you submit it and you're done. So some things that you'll want to look at before you hit that submit button: the budget form, make sure that it only has Ready by 5 fundings on it, staff positions, that those are described in the budget narrative and itemized in the budget expense section. Any partnerships will be itemized and included in that budget expense section. All steps of this can be found in the EC Impact Training Manual available online. Our suggestion is that you don't select the Save My Work and Mark as Completed link until all forms have been completed. And then this can allow you to change things as you develop the application and work through it. All questions related to the RFP and continuation of funding must be made in writing. And the deadline to submit those questions is April 14th by 5 p.m. There's a link embedded in both the RFP and the COF, so no questions will be accepted after that period. Technical questions, though, can be directed to the Ready by 5 team via email, and we can provide final answers to questions and amendments to the RFP and continuation of funding no later than April 23rd, and those will be up on the FSK website. It's your responsibility to monitor all inquiries, including those submitted by other agencies and published by First Steps Kent, to make sure to properly prepare your proposals for submission. If you have, again, any technical issues with EC Impact, please reach out to us with the Ready by 5 inbox. We're available to assist with those questions and issues specifically related to EC Impact online applications, but we can't answer any questions after today related to the RFP process and continuation of funding process unless they are submitted through the written format. This is our timeline. This is subject to change, obviously, as things happen, but this is what we have currently. We have issued the letter of intent, and those have already been submitted or received, and you should have heard back from a funding administrator at this point, whether you have been approved or denied or redirected to complete something different. We have the continuation of funding form and the request for proposal that were issued. And obviously you are attending day 2 of our pre-conferences. Our question and answer period will close on the 14th of April, and all questions and answers will be posted to the First Steps Kent website by April 23rd. And you have until May 14th to complete your proposals. And then we will have the Ready by 5 Resident Proposal Review Board on June 11th through the 13th. And then we will meet with the First Steps Kent Commission to review and approve those allocation recommendations. And you will receive a preliminary award notification. The end of this is more where the timeline is up in the air a little bit, as the commission could change the date that they want to meet. And that may push back or forward the preliminary notification of an award. Please note that we'll be reaching out to, oh, I'm so sorry, Elise. We'll be reaching out to new proposing agencies or programs with instructions for presentations to the Resident Proposal Review Board, and agencies that are submitting a proposal should anticipate that they will need to create a video no longer than 5 minutes for the review by the RPRB, and instructions for this will be emailed to the new proposing agencies or programs, and that will come from funding administrators. So double check the email and the phone contact information that's listed in EC Impact is the correct one to submit that information.
All right. So if you have any questions, please feel free to put them in the chat. Again, remember that the Q&A session, after this Q&A session ends, all questions will need to be asked through the online process, and the link is in the chat. And any questions not answered today will be answered on a Q&A document that will be posted on our website.
We will hang out here for a couple of minutes if there's any questions. Yeah, Jamila asked for the continuation of funding. You shared that you can have a modest budget increase, and she asked for us to identify the percentage for modest. So what we're looking at is on the federal grant level. Typically, they have an allowance of a 10% increase, and anything that is above that usually needs to come with a large justification from the or a large narrative of justification for the increase in cost. Anything above 25% will not be accepted and will need to be redirected to a request for proposal. Absolutely. I'm going to skip back to the timeline here so everyone has that if they want it. You guys another minute or two. I'm surprised there's not more questions